I'm here as a witness to prove that things from your past truly do prepare you for your current circumstances. And depending on how well you learn from those experiences, they can dictate how you will perceive your current circumstances. So, today I'm going to talk about a hard lesson that I had to learn and how you can benefit from mastering it over time. So, let's get into it. Welcome back to my channel, everyone. I am Jonesia from QA. Earlier this year, I was laid off due to Doge cuts, and I started this YouTube channel to keep myself sane, as well as to grow a sense of community. I know that a lot of us were laid off, a lot of us are dealing with unemployment, and just different professional things. So I figured I'd talk about some of those things as well as shed light on my field of quality assurance, especially in the context of clinical research, because if anyone's interested in that, I think it's a great career path to go down. I know that I didn't know where I was going, so this field opened up so much for me. So I think it can help someone else too. So if that sounds of interest to you, stay tuned. So let's talk entitlement. The highlight of my entitlement took place right after undergrad for me. I remember feeling frustrated because I felt like, I have my education, I have my degree. They told me I needed this degree. Where's my job? I thought it would be so easy to just get a job. It's like, I have the degree. What more do you need at this point? Like, why can't I get an entry level job? I wanted to see what I could get into. I really wanted like an office type of position because my experience was working in retail, and I knew that would only get me so far. So my goal was to be an administrative assistant or to be an office assistant, something along those lines. And that wasn't as easy a feat as I thought it would be. I'll also say that during this time, I was planning on going for my PhD in clinical psychology. I got my bachelor's in psychology. So I was very interested in clinical research. I was very interested in going into global mental health or going into learning about anxiety, depression, topics of that matter. I was very fascinated by them. I wanted to see how I could contribute to the research for that kind of stuff. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to go for my PhD in clinical psychology. That's perfect. But going back to being that undergraduate degree holder with zero work experience, I had the wrong mentality. So, number one, no one is entitled to anything. No one is entitled to a job. No one's entitled to education. You've got to prove that you're worthy of these opportunities. Like, you've got to show, hey, I was scholarly in my high school to, get a degree. You got to show, hey, I've got experience in this kind of area to get a job. That's just not how life works. So number two, I had no skills outside of my education. So with my whole situation, I had the wrong mentality. First and foremost, you're not entitled to anything. I sure as heck was not. I I didn't have any experience. I didn't have any skills. How would I get an administrative assistant position without at least the basic skills for that? So, it none of us are entitled to things, even though we'd like to think we are. We might think, oh, I have a degree. What is, like that's half the battle, right? And it's like sometimes, yeah, but then, some jobs they want a little bit more experience. And as the employers, they have that right to be particular about that. And we just have to accept that as the job seekers with very minimal education. So we get the experience where we can. At that time, I had no professional skills, and I honestly should have just been thankful for what I could have gotten. Whether that was retail or not, it having a job is a blessing. Having some form of showing like, hey, I have longevity or I've consistently worked here through the summers of my schooling, that holds value. It may not seem like a lot, but customer service, showing you can be battered in customer service can actually get you far. As terrible as that sounds, it's so true. Like being able to handle those customers, knowing how to handle those customers that are in that SpongeBob school of thought. That one episode where Mr. Krabs was like, "We will always allow a guest, even the most difficult request." That's customer service. If you haven't had the pleasure of doing that, you're probably a little young, or maybe you've just been very fortunate to just marry and you don't have to go into retail. But yeah, the rest of us, that it got us. So again, a bachelor's degree is often the baseline requirement. Most jobs, they expect you to have the bachelor's as well as experience. Some positions they will say you don't need a degree, but they expect a lot more experience in that field. But I digress. I was so new to the professional industry that I didn't even know how to elaborate on my skills. I was struggling to discuss my research experience in undergrad. Like, your girl did not, I was not worthy of a job at that point in time. And I don't say that to diminish me as a person, because, we're all we're worthy of work. But in my mentality, I wasn't ready. I wasn't at that place where I was worthy of having that kind of a job. Just like I'm not worthy of like getting a director position right now with my current experience, because I'm mid level. In the future, maybe in the future, but like right now, in all realisticness, it's like I'm not there. So we have to really work with where we're at in life in order to kind of go from there to see where we even belong in all of this. So another point that I had high entitlement was after I got my master's degree. You think, again, I thought, oh my gosh, I got my master's degree. I'm going to get this job related to my master's degree. It's going to be great. There's no way this can't work out. I remember when I entered my capstone class for my master's program, and I got a reality check so quick, because this whole time I was thinking, yeah, I'm going to get this degree and I'm going to be able to be a data analyst. It's going to be so sick. And people were saying, they were being real with me in my class, in my cohort. They were just like, yeah, it's not going to be easy for you just coming out of this class, because you don't have the experience in the industry. Like, the reality was, and I wish I knew this before entering my master's program, most of those people that were there were already in the industry as data analysts, data engineer, people were along those lines. And degree programs like the one I was in is essentially for working professionals who were already in the field, essentially, but they were looking to probably get promoted to management. I didn't realize that until that point. And then I was mad because I felt like, well, what am I going to do? And like, of course, you kind of go into fix it mode. It's like, you know what? I'm gonna apply. I'm gonna do all that I can. I'm gonna apply to what I can, and I'm gonna do the most entry level position. Just I've got to get some experience of some sort, but I've also gotten accustomed to a certain lifestyle, and I can't afford rent if I'm not making at least this kind of money. So then you get a whole new set of problems. So it it was a toss up. I really had to think, well, am I going to stay in my current career field, or am I going to switch and make not that much money? I was in a mode of like, I'm getting into this field somehow. I was determined. And I was, every time I got reached out to by a recruiter, they would always say, okay, what professional experience do you have? And it's like, I have a master's in data analytics. And they're like, okay, great. What have you done actual experience wise? And I'm not a good liar. I'm not a good liar. I could not, the reality was I didn't have any experience and I couldn't fake the funk. And it's like, oh, well, doesn't the masters count? And every time they're just like, oh, we're looking for someone who's got some experience in the field, who has done some data analytics stuff. Is there anything you've done in your current job? I did try. Like, I did ask to analyze some stuff, and that just wasn't something that could be done. Not getting these data analyst positions that I applied for, and believe me, I spent a whole season just applying. It was a hard pill to swallow. Anytime data analysis positions reached out to me, even to this day, it feels like a thorn in my side. I will say that thankfully, I was in a situation where I was in a career field where I had a salary that was paying me decently. And as much as I wanted that data analyst position, it just wasn't in the cards for me, and that's okay. I thought that my dream job was to be a data analyst, and the more I thought about it, it was like, I don't know if that's necessarily what I needed to do. So I really had to take some time to kind of reevaluate my whole life and my career goals. I will say that God had a plan for me. And by 28, I was in my first high paying position. I might be unemployed now, but I sleep well at night knowing that I have skills, I have years of experience, and that I am ultimately worthy at this point for jobs, that I have enough stock to get certain jobs. I put all this effort into my education, like a bachelor's, a master's, and, just to be at a point where it's like, I want my job. And reality kind of sets in very quickly. The bubble pops, and you realize, wow, I really do need experience. So, education, as valuable as it is, it's simply not enough on its own. And I had to learn that. I had to get past my entitlement. And I truly had to understand that it was going to take time for me to get to where I wanted to be. 4 years ago, I was like, I want it now. And 4 years in, I'm just like, wow, I really did need that time to get adjusted, to get acclimated into a field. And that's something that I'm always going to be thankful for, no matter how things go. Don't know if I'm getting back into my industry or if I'm going to have to start fresh at this point, but we're going to see. So that's all I can really say with that. Having humility and patience is so important because, you know, you want what you want in the moment, but what you need is the experience. What you need is to have patience, to learn what you can, to study hard, to take those trainings, to really show companies what you have, to show that, hey, I'm able to train. I can train other people. I can do this kind of work. I can be a role model. You really want to put your best foot forward. And when the time comes, you've got to make sure you're ready. And having the time in my industry, those first 3 years, it really, I was ready for that higher paying position by the time I got to it. And I would not have been ready if I did not have that experience. And that is something that I'm truly thankful for. So if you're out there and you're feeling like, oh, I should be able to just get this, like, just accept the journey for what it is. That's the main thing. Understand that things are going to take time. Understand that your worth is not diminished in any way. Just but the reality is you've got to be worthy of these positions. You've got to have the skills and the education and the professional skills. You know what I'm saying? You want to be ready for this kind of work, no matter how small it seems. Employers are going to expect a certain level, and can you blame them? So I had to understand that. So I know I'm not the only one. When I was younger, I really was deep in my entitlement, and life humbled me very quickly. So hopefully, if you're seeing this, you can learn from my mistakes and not have that mentality, but go into it from a learning perspective, getting what you can, learning from all the experiences you can, internships. If you go to trade school, like, you can get some applicable experience even in small ways. Like, just follow the path, follow the course, because I guarantee you it's going to be worth it in the end. If you made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching. I truly do make these videos for inspirational purposes and so that people can learn from my mistakes, because I didn't make all the best decisions or have the right mindset all the time. And sometimes it helps to just have that echoed, reiterated. I'm sure I'm not the only person who's made a video similar to this, but you know, these are learning experiences, and I think that they should be taken pretty seriously. If this video resonated with you, hit that like, share, and subscribe button, as well as that notification bell so that I can notify you whenever I make new content. It really helps a small YouTube channel out. But that's all I've got for this video, so I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.